Good evening. Good evening to all of you. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Ames and Story County Candidate Forum for the Nevada Community School District Board of Directors. For those of you who might not be familiar, the League is a nonpartisan political organization dedicated to encouraging citizens to be informed participants of their government on the local, state, and national levels. This forum tonight is being recorded for upload to YouTube and the League of Women Voters of Ames and Story County Facebook page. Also, it will be played and archived at a later date on KHOI FM 89.1. For the record, today is Tuesday, October 21. My name is Phyllis Peters. I'm a member of the League, and other volunteers with the League are here tonight as well. My job is to moderate tonight's forum. So, I want you to know that all declared candidates for the Office of School Board up on this year's election cycle have been invited, and thank you, all are present here with us and willing to take your questions. The candidates are Tori Carsrud, Tim Hadley, Emily Shack, and Katie Woodard. Now, the forum this evening will be divided into 3 sections. The first will be candidates' opening statements. Next, the candidates will take questions from you, the audience. And finally, candidates will have closing statements as time allows. Now, audience members, if you have questions to ask the candidates, please write them down on your cards. Raise your hand if you don't have a card, and our runner will get you a card and a pen if you need it. And when you have your question written, also raise your hand, put your card up there, and she will bring it up to me. These are anonymous. Nobody knows who writes the questions. Just get your questions in. Now, alternately, you may step to the mic in the center aisle and ask a question. Just wait for me to call on you. Candidates, we will begin with opening remarks from each of you. Limit your remarks, please, to 3 minutes or less. Our timekeeper, Deb, in the front row, will hold up a card when you have 30 seconds left in your allotted time. So we're ready to start with introductory remarks, and we will start with Tori.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending, and thanks for the invitation for tonight. I'm going to start by saying I am leaving in about 15 minutes because tonight is the first round of the varsity volleyball districts, and my daughters play on the varsity squad, and so I'm going to head to the high school to watch that game. So if you see me exit, that's why. So go Cubs. I fully expect them to win tonight. They're doing really well. So again, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be back running for this office. Those who don't know, I was previously on the Nevada School Board for 8 years. I have been off for the last 4. I really enjoyed my time on the board, and why I enjoyed it is because I'm an educator to the bottom of my core. I am a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing, and I currently work for the Department of Education, and I support the professionals who work with students with disabilities. All of the students that I support are deaf and hard of hearing, and a lot of them have other disabilities in addition to that. And so my focus is on special education, and I want to make sure that all students have opportunities to excel and achieve whatever their pathway is. I have 3 kids myself in this district. They would actually be a 3rd generation of Nevada, soon to be Nevada graduates. This is a great school. I have supported a lot of school districts in my time in education, and we have great facilities, we have great staff, and we have wonderful administration, and I want to continue being a part of the team that continues that trend. So, thank you.
And we will go to Tim next. Thank you, Tori.
I'm Tim Hadley. I do not have a daughter playing volleyball, so you can throw whatever you want at me. Thank you for putting this on. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am the machine shop supervisor at Arnold Motor Supply Machine Shop out on Airport Road. I likewise have 3 boys, all in the school district. I've been involved with Pizza Palooza. I've been involved with Lincoln Highway Days. I am a Nevada Athletics supporter. The biggest thing that I get asked is not why are you running, it's what do you want to change? And I'm going to echo Tori's comment that I think we have a great district. I think we have great people in place. I think we're very fiscally responsible. And I am more interested in continuing the great traditions that we have in the Nevada School District, I think. I do not want to be the person that goes in and just starts changing everything. Likewise, I understand that change is necessary depending on the time period, but with 3 boys in this district, I feel like I am invested in the school district, and there's no better way to get invested than right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily?
Does this one work? Yep. I'm Emily Shack. I am the Main Street Nevada Director. I've lived in Nevada for 10 years. We actually partially chose this community because of the school district. I came and talked to the principal here at Central at the time and took a tour, and we just really fell in love with the school district. We talked to community members who had nothing but great things to say about the district, and so the school is partially why we chose to move to Nevada and have our kids go to school here. So I'm very involved in the community. I have a pretty big list, but school specific, I am on the NCRC board, the School Improvement Advisory Committee. I helped shape the cell phone policy for the school and also was on another 2-year committee at Central a couple years ago. I have also worked in the school. I spent about 1.5 years in food service, and then I was a paraeducator for a few years, and part of that I ran the library here at Central. I also had my substitute teacher certificate and have subbed in several of the classrooms as well. Like they said, I mean, there's nothing really I'm looking to change. As we all know, everybody in the community knows the school is really, really great. I know we've scored in the top, well, Central scored in the top 1% of the state for the state scorecard. Middle school was like top 18%, I want to say. So we do have a great school. I do know from talking to a few parents, there's things that we can better or continue to grow, and I'm happy to help see those things through. Also, as somebody who works heavily with the workforce in our county, I know that a lot of workforce, the industries and things are looking for students who have good work experience when they graduate from here, and college isn't for everyone, and I get that. So I'd like to see our school continue to keep pushing the skills for the students to go straight into the workforce. I also just really, really, really love how schools operate and the things I've learned through my either working in the school district or being a part of some of the committees. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a deeper dive into all of that.
Thank you. And Katie?
Well, I want to say thank you for having me here, and thanks for everybody for being here tonight. For you, those of you that I don't know, I am Katie Woodard. My family and I moved to Nevada in 2014, and we chose Nevada specifically for the size of the community, obviously affordability of living, but the school as well. I am a veterinarian by training and a professor at Iowa State, my day job. And in that role, you see the importance of education and how it affects students when they leave their home district. They graduate from high school and they move on. And so I'm running for 2 reasons. One is transparency. I talk to a lot of parents and community members who want to know more about what's happening in the schools, either at the school board level or in the schools themselves. And I think that's really important to be able to find information on what's happening and discussions that are being had, but also to continue Nevada turning out students who are prepared for life. Whether that means that they're going on to college, we want them to be prepared for that. If they're going on to a trade or a job in the community, we want them to be prepared for that as well. And so really just running to continue that great tradition that we have of turning out students that are prepared for their next step in life.
Thank you, Katie. Now we're going to go to audience questions. We've gotten quite a few, and they're good questions. We would normally keep changing who goes first, second, third, but we want to be sure that we get a few questions to Tori before she goes to volleyball. So we're going to start again with you. And this question, if you are elected next month, you will be present to choose the next superintendent. What qualities are you looking for in this position? Oh, and for this part of the forum, you will have 2 minutes instead of 3. Okay.
That's a great question. So the school board really has 2 roles. One is to set the budget, and 2 is to hire the superintendent. I was not a part of the first, our current superintendent. He started the same year that I started on the board. And what I feel is a great skill set for our leaders is someone who is, especially in the superintendent role, is really knowledgeable about fiscal responsibility and how budgets work, how the formulas work. They also need to be a leader who can listen to the staff members and get feedback from the students themselves, and yet make a decision. Our superintendents have to understand law and the legal parameters that are set for them, and yet try and keep the district moving forward and allow for student achievement and for staff members to be successful and feel that they are contributing to the district, to their classroom. And so our superintendent needs to be that strong leader. They need to be present. They need to be a person who is a great listener. And so hopefully I could be on that team to help determine who that is.
Tim?
Well, I'm going to echo everything that Tori said. I think those are a lot of great qualities to look for. Working with a lot of diverse people and no concern is too small not to listen to. Fiscal responsibility is a big one. I think the Nevada School District is fairly fiscally responsible as things set, and the next superintendent is going to have to carry that forward and keep us fiscally responsible. And, you know, just all around, they're going to have to be a people person and able to listen and able to address concerns, whatever they may be.
Yeah, I'll third everything that's been said. I'm a big Dr. Gray fan, so I think we have his big shoes to fill. I've talked to a few people at the state level who have said, you know, your biggest job on the board is, as Tori said, is to keep the school out of debt. Once you go into debt, you have big problems. So, so somebody who really understands that is important. Also, staff retention, you know, teachers can go anywhere, and so somebody who can keep the culture and the morale and the vibrancy in the school and make it a place that the staff wants to be. And then also, because I'm really involved in things in the community, I'd like to see a superintendent who stays involved with the community, the city, the county, understands what's going on outside of just their district and how that all plays a part together.
So we're in a really good spot, being able to not have to pick a superintendent that is coming to fix problems, right? And so I think it's really important in a leadership position that that person can balance many different roles. They need to be a listener, as many people mentioned already, but making sure that people are heard. It's one thing to sit and say that you're listening, but it's a totally different thing to actually take those perspectives into consideration. And then to put those things into action. You hear the ideas and the things that need to be done, and what can we do about those things? This person needs to be able to take ideas and move those into tangible things that are moving our district forward, and continuing to serve our students is really important. You need somebody who has a good vision, and that that vision matches the vision that we have for our school and what we want for our students. And so this is going to be a really important job, choosing someone that is a good match for our district to keep moving us forward.
Thank you. We'll take another question, but we're going to start with Tim and then go this way so that we're getting you included. This is a question about improvements and building plans. Tim, what do you foresee in the near future for the Nevada School District, and then also for the long term?
Well, in the short term, I think it's important that folks re-up the PEPL that is being asked for on the ballot this year. I mean, that goes to a lot of our facilities, a lot of our equipment, and that's necessary to maintain all of that. You know, going forward in the future, I'm sure at some point there is going to be a need for a building to be built, a new facility somewhere. You know, hopefully I can be around maybe to, excuse me, to take part in that. You know, honestly, like I said, I mean, I just don't think that there are a lot of changes that need to be made at this point. I think we're in a very good position, and I think we can stay in a very good position for a long period of time as long as we keep in mind that we need to be fiscally responsible. We definitely need to retain our people that we have, make sure that, you know, we're up to the standards of other districts as far as, you know, what we're giving our employees, what we're giving our staff, et cetera. And I guess that's about all I can say on that one.
Tori, the question's about improvement and building plans.
Yeah, number one, we need the PEPL vote. We need to continue that. Those funds pay for so many things. It was shocking to me on the board how much a school bus costs. And the costs for repairing those buses, I joke that our elementary roof, the color on it tends to fade and get dirty. And it has been cleaned. The estimate to clean the roof, unbelievable. I was shocked. Again, I have my own house and we have repairs to my house. But when you have such a large facility and a large building, the need for the financial support to make small things like fixing the roof, the maintenance that we need. We have beautiful facilities, and so we need that PEPL fund, that levy to pass, so we can continue to keep our beautiful facilities. We are fortunate, all of our buildings are air conditioned. We have some great grounds and maintenance crews who keeps things clean. They use energy efficient ideas, and we need to continue the upkeep on our buildings so then we wouldn't have to build new facilities. We can maintain what we have, add on if need be, but that's important.
Katie?
I will echo largely what Tori said, but it's really important and expensive to maintain school buildings, and the cost of buildings is doing nothing but going up. We just built a new building at work, and the cost to keep the lights on will blow your mind. Just to run a building, just to have power and lights and air conditioning. And it's important that our students have nice, clean, well-maintained buildings to come to, and for us to have events in, meetings like this, sporting events, all important parts of our building usage. And I think we also need to keep in mind any future growth of the district. If we have increasing class sizes, where are we going to put those students over time? And it is much easier and more cost-effective to maintain and add on than it is to build a brand new building. So all things that we need to just keep our finger on that pulse.
Emily?
I will also encourage a yes vote to the PEPL levy. Like they said, you know, maintenance itself is one thing, but if we want to keep our places nice and have nice things for our students, but not only that, even, you know, people who don't have kids in the school, you probably still utilize the facilities at some level, whether you're attending athletic events or going to a play at Tope Auditorium or something. And it's just it's nice to have nice spaces for our community, but really important, I think, for our kids when they spend so much time here, that we have nice things for them. Just watching some of the school board meetings lately, and there's always an ask for money at them, it seems like, but some of them are really important, like last night they were looking for new snow moving equipment, and yes, we have some, but when those are down for repair, you know, you need to have something reliable. So I do think it's important that we can sustain all of those improvements and have room for newer things to come.
Thank you. The next question, given the reduction in funds from the state of Iowa due to vouchers and cuts in AEAs, how do you propose to keep services in our schools and for our students? We're going to start with Katie, and we will go this way.
I think this is, again, where PEPL becomes really important. Those are dollars that are coming out of our community and going back to our schools. And that money is not insignificant, right? So at the rate that we are currently levying, that's bringing over $500,000 to our school district. And you know, we talk a lot about state cuts to funding. This past year, I think we got a 2% increase, and legislatures will tell you that we're putting more money into Iowa schools than we ever have before, but they don't take into account inflation. And so when you look at inflation over the last 10 years, looking at 30%, that 2% doesn't keep up even if you do it every year. And so it's really important for us to not only be financially, fiscally responsible as a district, but continue to support our district locally, because it's just getting harder to do less with, or to do more with the same amount of dollars.
Emily?
For me, I guess, is my microphone on? Yep. I feel like all those resources are super, super important, and as I've been talking to parents, that's the number one thing I've heard probably is we need more resources. You know, students coming into the school need a lot more things than maybe the students that are going to be outgoing this year. And they're going to require a lot more resources, and those things will help the teachers too. I mean, teachers are, I'm sure, frustrated by when they don't have all the resources that they need. And so it is important, and I hate to see any of those things go away. And if there's anything we can do to find funds to keep those things. I know Dr. Gray, I've asked him before, what do you think makes our district unique from other districts in our area? And he always says the resources. It's the resources that we can provide the students. And I think it's really important that we set ourselves aside and continue to have all those great resources and more if we can find the funds for them.
Tim?
Well, I'm going to echo both of those as far as the fiscal responsibility. There again, I know we're in a good position. I hope we can stay in a good position. I think that, with less funding involved, you generally have to get a little bit more creative and not try to take away from some areas too much that's going to hurt them in order to help other areas. It's difficult when you see funding start disappearing, but I think, as long as we're making the right decisions at the right times, I think we can advance through that curve.
If you'll share your mic, Tori, the question is about reduction in funds from the states. How do you propose to keep services for school and students?
So the funds, we need students. So we need to continue growing our enrollment numbers. That's what brings in the dollars. So we have the PEPL dollars, which helps with our buildings and buses and repairs. But then we also have the instructional dollars that we need from the students who are attending. And students come to our community because we have great teachers. And we have great administrators, and we have lots of success. And so our administrators they're responsible for reporting to the superintendent and then reporting to us on, here are some great ideas that we have. And because it's the field telling us what they feel like will work and what will be most beneficial for the students, it brings excitement to those who are here, and then they go out and they're talking to their friends and new community members, and possibly families considering moving here. And so if we can get those students in our doors, in our chairs, that's going to bring more funding, because every student brings dollars with them. And so if we can keep them in our buildings, keep the culture, so that way our teachers are bragging about all the great things happening. And we have a great marketing team. Our IT folks are some of the best around. I love the posts. I love all of whenever I can see Nevada Cubs, even having the paw out there, it's just spreading the word and keeping families interested, because we are competing against our neighbors. And so what can we do to bring their attention to Nevada versus another community?
Okay, we will now start with Emily, and the question follows through on these, on the topic of enrollment and enrollment trends, how that affects the needs of the districts. So specifically, with the enrollment numbers down, what do you think is the cause, and how do you think, as a leader, you can affect its turnaround?
I have a question about the enrollment numbers. What are the facts about it? Down in what way?
I don't know.
Oh,
I can tell you. That's what I was going to ask the same question, but I was going to say it, and I'll ask the question to you later.
Perfect.
But according to the Iowa Department of Education,
Go to the microphone, please. And-
I actually researched this. Whoa!
Okay.
I talk about it too. So according to the Iowa Department of Education, they released this in January of 2025, so that was this year. Public schools are down 0.63%.
statewide?
Statewide. Overall statewide, 480,000 and change students. Non-public, less than 40,000 students in non-public schools. However, they increased 8.6%
Okay.
over this year. So there's the numbers.
Well, that's for the state. And
That's for the state.
Okay, so we are focused on the Nevada School District, and members of the school board are leaders. So the question is this: what would your leadership do to help increase enrollment?
I think, well, it's two things. I think, one, we can't accept enrollment from students outside of our district. So having a district that's attractive to them, that can provide more resources and opportunities, and has the vision that students and families are looking for. We can bring students from outside of the district. But also, this is where I think it's important that the school work with the community as well on just the growth of the community overall, and working on housing. We have quite a bit more housing coming here in the next few years that should hopefully bring families and help the numbers in the district. And so I do think that, as we talked about, hiring the next superintendent, our current and next one need to be involved in that and helping to grow the community.
Tim?
Well, I would echo, I think the open enrollment for us is huge, because I know of several families from outer lying districts that have open enrolled into Nevada because the district itself is attractive, the facilities are attractive, the sports programs, the education is attractive. I think there is, kind of like Tori said, with our IT and some of our, advertising capabilities, I think there is, probably still some opportunities to push out there to increase those open enrollment numbers. And I kind of wonder if the enrollment, is down. I kind of wonder, I guess, and, I guess I should have maybe asked you, sir, if the trend, if this is kind of an ebb and flow. I'm not 100% sure how that works. I'd have to look into that. But, I think the vouchers, the private schools play into that. I think we just need to find new ways to get new students into our district. And I think the community housing, et cetera, I think a lot of that plays into that as well.
Katie?
So I'll echo a little bit of what was said and then add on to it. I think that open enrollment is good for our district, and we attract a lot of students from surrounding school districts that are smaller than Nevada, because we have resources and opportunities for those students that smaller districts can't offer, don't offer. I think to add on to that, we should also be asking ourselves, why are the students that are leaving our district leaving our district? What is it that is more appealing to them to other school districts, whether that is, other larger school districts that are public that they're open enrolling in, if that is private schools that they're pursuing, if that's homeschooling. I've heard from a lot of parents in our district who no longer have students in the district, and there are a variety of reasons behind that. But I think as a school district and as a school board and as administrators, everyone should be kind of asking themselves, what is it that's enticing people to leave? Why are they leaving the Nevada School District? And then take that under consideration. If there are recurring themes there, then maybe that's something that should be looked at. And if there are things that we're interested in bettering ourselves to better serve those students and families, then that's something that should be invested in.
Okay, we will start with Tim, and then Katie, and then Emily. This question has to do with how taxpayer dollars are used. And economic development is a place where some tax dollars are used. And a recent study by the University of Iowa found out, reported that communities' use of tax increment financing to promote economic development generally reduces revenue to local schools, and they see a correlation with a decline in per pupil spending. So that's one level. So here in Nevada, the city's use of TIF, that's the tax increment funding, it results in a significant loss of revenue to our schools. To maintain existing school funding, a heavier burden then is passed on to homeowners in the form of higher school taxes. If you are elected to serve on the Nevada School Board, how would you balance any conflict of interest that may arise when local economic development endeavors appear to be at odds with the interests of the Nevada schools? We'll start with Tim, and then go Katie and Emily.
Well, I think that's, I know that the school board and the Nevada City Council meet, I believe it's once annually. If that's incorrect, somebody please correct me. But, it's very important that we are working with our city leaders, to try to find a balance there. It's unfortunate that is the way that system is set up, because I see the benefit for the city. But I also, see the downgrade to the school system as a result of it. I think there is a balance there to be maintained, that as long as everybody can work together to make the smart decisions that need to be made, I think that balance can be found. And once again, as long as we get, I think our PEPL fund, as long as that is re-upped again, I think that helps us to a degree as well. And hopefully that balance can be found and maintained.
Katie?
This is where, the school board members will have to have difficult conversations, right? There are two groups, right? City council and the school board, who both have two different things that are top of mind for them. The school board should be representative of the school and should have the school district as their first priority, as part of that job as being on the board. And while we do have to kind of work with the structure that we've been given, it's important for the school board members to advocate for what's best for the school district, and not to the detriment of the community or economic development. But those relationships between city council and the school board are really important, and conversations might not always be easy, but conversations need to be had even when they're difficult, to work out what's best overall for our town. And town is comprised of many things. It's not just the school district, it's not just economic development, it's not just the businesses or just the families, it's a combination of all of those things. And so we have to find a balance that works to make all of it work. Nevada is a community that we all choose to live in because all of those things serve us. And so we need to advocate for balance amongst those things.
Thank you. Emily?
Yeah, I don't think one thing is more important than the other. They're both economic development and in the school district, they all play together. But for me, I guess it depends on, what we're asking for money for. But like they both said, I think that's just where you bring everybody in the room and talk about it and how it works together. And I guess I don't see there being a whole lot of issues with it. I work in economic development every day, but my board knows that school is my number one thing. That's what I'm passionate about, and they know that. And I think there's room for everybody and room for funds to go around to help the whole community.
Thank you. We will start with Katie, work this way. Now, the audience has heard you as candidates speak about the importance of resources to both staff and students. Specifically, what are those resources for both, and how would you prioritize the resources? We'll start with Katie.
So again, I'll start with balance. There are students and there are staff in our district, and they both have needs. You want to talk a little bit more specifically. Teachers are in need of continuing education and professional development, and we need to make sure that they are getting the resources allocated to them to make that happen, so that they can continue to teach our students and continue their learning, so that they have all the tools at hand that they need. When you talk about students, students have a lot of needs depending on the student. That can range all the way from having someone there with them at all times while they're at school so that they can learn effectively. That costs money, and you've got to recruit those people, and that's hard too. That could be the physical materials that they need. A lot of our students have a Chromebook, an iPad, and so we've got to provide that. And then just a safe learning environment that has all of the things that they need to be effective learners. That might mean their breakfast, their lunch, making sure that students are fed so that they can actually think and learn is really important. And so all of those things have to be balanced. I think in order to start making a priority list, that's really hard, but I think you need to look at it from a standpoint of what is most needed. We all make decisions on priorities every day in our life, and you've got to make a selection. So what thing is most underserved, and start there, and then start to move down the list of priorities and balance who that priority is for. You're not going to top load everything just for the students or just for the staff. You've got to have a mix in there as you're making your priority list.
Emily?
Resources for the students, I see that as kind of two different groups, financial and physical resources, and then educational resources. I know we have, I think, roughly 40% free and reduced lunch. So we have a lot of students that have a lot of financial and physical needs, and we have fantastic social workers in our district, and that along with our community, none of us in the community want our kids to go hungry or not have clothing or shelter. So I think the community really supports those students a lot, but keeping those programs going so that the students don't have those worries in the back of their mind, they can just show up and come to school and be educated like they should be when they come to school and not have to worry about what's to eat or if they have clean clothes on. And then the educational piece, educational resources for the students, whether that's a paraeducator if they need a one-on-one, or I know there's some students who do online schooling, not because they don't want to be here, but for some reason, health reason or other, they just can't be here. And so I know that some of them are looking for some extra resources to help that be an easier process. And then for the staff, I think all of those things in place for the students help the staff. If they can have a one-on-one in their room if they need it, if they can have, somebody else can help the students with the other things that they need, the financial things they need, so that the teacher can focus on just teaching. I also think providing professional development for the staff who wants it, and so that they can continue to further their education and keep them motivated. I think all of those are important.
Tim?
Well, I think as far as, I'm going to echo what Katie said. It's hard to prioritize a lot of things when you're dealing with resources for staff and students. I mean, as far as staff goes, I think we just need to make sure that we are up to the same standard, taking care of our teachers, our para-educators, everybody, all the folks in our district, make sure that we are up to the standard that other school boards have, or that other school districts have, as far as, what we're paying them, what the health insurance looks like and such as that. If somebody around us has better benefits than that, that's going to take away our good people, and we definitely want to retain our good people. As far as students go, I recently kind of did a little bit of diving into negative lunch account balances for some of these students and such as that. And the research that I've done, I've noticed that a lot of surrounding districts have a fund that can be donated to by anybody for, taking care of negative student lunch accounts, which, I guess my question, I would like to know if there's something like that that can be put in play in our district to kind of help with that, give us that resource. And I would also note that I know last year my 6th grader participated in something called J BizTown that is held down in Des Moines. They did a presentation to the school board after they did that program down in Des Moines. It's basically a real life, you have a student that's a banker, you have a student that's a builder. And I think the cost of it was somewhere around $1,000 for these 6th graders to go down, and I think that's a very small price to pay to give them that real world experience. And I think if there are more things like that we can give them that real world experience, I think that's very important too.
Thank you. For this question, we will start in the middle with you, Emily. The question: when the community is divided over an issue like curriculum or safety, share what your process is for listening before you decide.
I do think in this role we are representing the community, the school district community, and so it is important to hear everybody's side, whether that's the staff, the students, the parents, the taxpayers. I think it's important to hear from everybody and get lots of different perspectives, hear both sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, whatever it is. Listen to everyone before making a decision. I would hope that our current and past school boards are making, data-driven decisions and decisions based on what other people are telling them and not just their own personal emotional things. So it is important to sit and listen to everybody before making those decisions.
Tim?
I will echo that. And I will likewise say, I think that, as in our position, no matter what the conflict is, or, no matter, and no concern is too small, you need to listen and take into account every concern, but you need to remain calm and collected. You need to, remain reasonable, and, if it is a significant conflict, that's where we need to listen to our community. We need to listen to our parents, we need to listen to our administrators, our teachers, whoever this may affect at the end of the day, and I think we need as much information and as much input as possible before we can make an effective decision to resolve that conflict.
Katie?
Yeah, gathering information in any field is difficult sometimes, and so one of the things that I've done in my career in higher ed is learning how to take information from multiple sources and go through all of it. Whether that's written, whether that is verbal. And so it's really important to hear all the points of view, to bring those in, and then you've got to take all of that information and kind of synthesize it as you make a decision. And it's important to take into consideration the impact of the decision that you're making. It's one of the first things that you learn when you go into veterinary school, that the decision that you're going to make is going to impact a life. Whether that's for positive or for negative. And so once you've collected all of the information, you really have to look at all of the impact it's going to have down the line as those dominoes fall, what other things are going to happen from the decision that you're making. And sometimes that means that there is a wrong answer because it's going to have negative impact on in this case, the students, on the teachers, on administration, on the community. And so while you hear all the points of view, it's up to you, right, to synthesize all of that and make the right decision. And I think that's exactly what some school board decisions are. There are a lot of viewpoints in any community. They come from all different places and they have all different thoughts about what is best for them and their family and their schooling environment. And it's our job to hear that and then make the decision that's right for the school district.
Okay, this time we will start with Tim, and this question kind of follows up on that listening process. As you run into people at work or around town, what do they tell you is the specific thing they want you to do as a school board member? They are electing you to do what?
Well, I think they are electing us to do what is best for our community, what is best for our students. I think a lot of people, have made comments that they think Nevada is very fiscally responsible, as that's been mentioned about 60 times already. But, there's no small part of that. A lot of people are electing us for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of different viewpoints out there. A lot of the folks that I have talked to think that, the school district runs pretty effectively the way it is. They know that there are going to be issues that arise and whatnot. But, I think that a lot of you folks out there are electing us to carry this school district into the future and keep the good tradition that it has had for this time.
Katie, the question, what do your friends tell you is the top thing they want you to do on the school board?
So the one thing that I've heard since I announced my candidacy to run for school board, from everyone who's reached out, whether those are parents of students in the district or just community members, they all came with something that they wanted me to hear. And that has been the overwhelming message is I have something that I feel like no one is listening to. And they just want someone to hear them and acknowledge the issue. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is going to be transparency with the school board and the district. People want to know what's going on after school board meetings, whether that is making sure that minutes are gotten out in a timely fashion. We do a great job of live streaming the school board meetings, but not everyone is always available to listen in. And so making sure that there is some summary of that school board meeting, the minutes are getting out, that people feel like they know and can come to the school board and discuss issues, and that they'll be heard, and that when things are happening in the district, they know about it. So listening is the thing that I'm hearing most from people, and that they want more transparency with the district.
Emily?
Yeah, most of the community loves our district, so there haven't been a ton of things. One big one, I do have a lot of relationships with staff from having worked in the school district, and so a lot of them just listen to the staff. It's also been interesting how many don't even know who's on their school board, but for the ones who do and pay attention, they've said, it's really important that you listen to the staff and are interested in hearing what their issues and frustrations are.
Thank you. We've had a couple of questions about book banning, and this person reminds us that, or at least states that, when Iowa changed laws regarding book banning a couple of years ago, Nevada removed the most books from our schools compared to other schools in the state. What is your view on book banning and ensuring literary equity in our district? We will start this time with Katie.
So I'll answer this kind of in two parts. I'll start with the very personal. Book banning, I am personally not a supporter of book bans in general. However, I understand that we have to abide by the laws that are given to us as a school district, as part of the state of Iowa, as part of the United States of America. And so it's hard when you get kind of top-down legislation. And we have to comply with the law as a school district, and that's really hard. But I personally believe that we should leave it to the educators. The people who are sitting at the top making rules are not the ones in the classrooms. They're not the ones in the libraries. They're not the ones with the students teaching the material. And so we should really do our best to keep that in the hands of the educators, and take all of that experience and expertise into consideration as we make decisions to become compliant with the law. Again, we are bound by those laws that are given to us, and we can push back on them, but we ultimately have to follow them as a school district in order to stay in good standing with the state and the federal government. And so it can be hard, and while I don't believe in top-down legislation, we still have to be compliant. And so working through that, we should lean on our educators and our experts and all of the people in the classrooms to help guide those decisions.
Emily?
Yeah, I'm an avid reader, and so I really do not like the book bans. I have a little free library in my yard, and I'm pretty sure I've put books in there that are banned. I worked in the library here, and there was a couple times, this was prior to the book bans, but I did have a few parents reach out to me about books that students had brought home, and we discussed it, and the books weren't taken out of the library, but I had that discussion with them, why they felt it was inappropriate, etc. As Katie said, there's hands are tied when the laws are being made, but I'm willing to lobby for those to be changed. I'm not a big fan of banning books, but again, we have to do what we're told, so.
Tim?
Yeah, I think the book ban topic is, one of those very, very hard conversations. I'm not necessarily a fan of book banning, but that being said, I also understand that there is age-appropriate material for age-appropriate children. I think you just have to be supportive of parents and their decisions. I think you have to be supportive of an age group of what they are interested in. And, as was said, it's very difficult to deal with something that we have no control over. It's something that is controlled at the state level. And, I guess the one positive thing about that is that any of us sitting here or any of you sitting out there, can lobby your legislators to try to get things changed. And ultimately that's what it takes to change something like that. But I think we just kind of need to be supportive all the way around as much as we can while we're still following the law.
Okay, next question, and we will start with you, Emily. Keep working this way. What is your stance on school vouchers? And if you believe there is a role for school vouchers, how do you think we should hold private schools accountable for the funds that come from the public?
I'm going to be honest, I don't know a whole deep ton on the school voucher thing, but I am very much a public funding for public schools advocate. I feel like the private schools should lean more on their funding on their own, and the public dollars should be kept in the public schools.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I don't know a whole lot about the school voucher situation. I would say that, obviously I'm running for school board in a public school, so I, would lean towards keeping public dollars in public schools. That being said, I would not necessarily totally agree with taking away that choice from somebody that wants to privatize. I think that, a lot of the private schools, probably have a lot more fundraising options, in their circle than what, maybe are being made use of. But at the end of the day, I think, again, this is where our open enrollment comes into play, and getting more students to come into our district to try to compensate for those students that are going to the private schools versus staying in public school.
Katie?
In response to vouchers, I believe that the public dollars belong in public schools. We pay taxes to take care of our community, and we're investing in the children here in our community. Whether you are, brand new, just out of school, don't have children, you are, paying those taxes to provide education for the students that are there in the schools. If you're a parent, right, you're supporting your own students that are in the public schools. And if you are, your children have moved on, now you're in an empty nest, you're still supporting your community because you want a vibrant young youth that are learning in your community. And I think that other state models that have gone to vouchers have done so at the detriment to public school education. That seems to be kind of across the board. other states, not talking about Iowa. Ours is very fresh. I think that, again, those public dollars belong in our public schools. I don't think that you should be able to take your public dollars out to take them to private school. So that makes me pretty anti-voucher. But it is because we're investing in our communities. Because those dollars belong in the public school system that was designed to be to the betterment of the local community. I think that private schools, they don't have the regulation of the states, right? They're not held to the same standards as public schools, and so those public dollars shouldn't be allotted there.
Thank you. We will start with Tim. It's a two-part question. Do you attend parent-teacher conferences? That's the easy part, yes or no. But in the next part, teachers have a very difficult job. In what ways can the school district support teachers?
I attend every parent-teacher conference. It's actually been very interesting because with in this building with the elementary, they are scheduled. When you move on to middle school, you can either schedule one or you can kind of, just walk through and talk to the ones that you would, either have concerns with or the ones that you would like to go talk to. Every conference period, I make sure that I'm signed up here for a time to talk about my elementary student, and when the middle school offers their walkthrough times, I walk through and I talk to as many of those teachers as I can.
And the second part, in what ways can the school district do more to support teachers? They have a very difficult job and need support.
Well, I think making sure that, going back to resources, making sure that they have the resources that they need. And again, like I said before, making sure that we are up to the industry standard as far as pay, health insurance, anything else that would come into play there. I think, and again, we just, if teachers have issues, they're lacking things, we need to make sure we are listening to that and not listening just to hear them, but listening to solve the problem if one exists. Katie?
So I'll start with parent-teacher conferences. I do attend all of my students' parent-teacher conferences. It does, as Tim mentioned, become a little more difficult in middle school just because of the way that those are set up, being more like open house and not scheduled. But still important for our students, for you to be kind of checking in with their teachers and discussing any issues. Myself, I have one student who is above and beyond, kind of golden child, and I have two other students who fit that full spectrum. One needs a little more help than others, and I have more conversations with that teacher. But again, important for you to stay engaged as a parent. As far as supporting teachers, they do, teachers get into education because they love education. Nobody goes into education because they think they're going to make millions of dollars. And so it's important to keep that love of educating alive. And a lot of times that means supporting teachers, making sure that they have the resources that they need to do their job without putting unnecessary hurdles in front of them, making sure that their students are supported in the classroom and that they have all the resources that they need so that we're making their job as easy as possible. Understanding that it's not an easy job. That's why all of us aren't teachers. But we want their job to be as easy as it can be, and we certainly don't want to put hurdles up in front of them.
Emily?
I do attend all the parent-teacher conferences. I guess I didn't say in my opening, but I have a freshman and I have a sixth grader. And yes, I have been to every single one of their parent-teacher conferences. I do think that's really important, as well as attending anything else that the school puts on that they are inviting parents to come to. They're not just doing that for fun. So I do think it's important to stay involved in that. Supporting the staff, building a welcoming environment, offering professional development and allowing them time to go to those, keeping the classroom sizes fair. Again, I know there's a lot of top-down things that makes education not fun sometimes, so allowing them freedom outside of those things that they have to do, allowing the teachers freedom in their classroom to, they know their students better than somebody at the state level knows their students. So allowing them freedom to educate the way that they want to educate within the boundaries that we can. And then, like Tim said, making sure that they're paid a fair wage and have good benefits.
Okay, next question, and we will start with Katie. Community trust. Community trust depends on good communication. What specific strategies do you support to facilitate two-way communication? And how will you handle interactions with parents or community members who bring their concerns to the board?
So communication, I've mentioned previously, is really important, and I'll come back to transparency. I think that in order to facilitate conversations between parents, the community, and the school board, you have to be open to those conversations. And I have already met with many, many parents in the district who had thoughts to share. And so I am fully in support of having a lot of transparency as to what happens at the school board meetings, and making sure that we get minutes out in a timely manner. If we can do something additional to make that information more readily available to look at, and get that in front of our community in different ways, I'm in support of that and would be all in on making that happen and executing that if I were elected to school board. I know just as a parent myself, it's not always easy to find out what happened at the most recent school board meeting. When you go looking for the minutes, they're not always there yet. And so that is a struggle, I think, for a lot of people, just to find out what happened or what's going on. And additionally, making sure that people feel welcome to come to school board meetings, and that they know where they're located, and that they're in a space that feels welcoming and has room for them to sit down and talk and meet with the school board. And then as a school board, again, making sure that you're taking all of the feedback that you're getting under consideration is all going to be really important. And so I'm a huge advocate for transparency and making sure that information is put out in front of the community and the parents so that everyone knows what's going on at the district level and at those board meetings.
Emily?
Yeah, I think was a question about dealing with parents' concerns.
How will you handle interactions with parents and community members who bring their concerns to the board? Specific strategies on how you will facilitate good two-way communication.
I think, as Katie mentioned, as we are all candidates, plenty of people have come to us with their concerns and things, which I think it's important to listen to those. And as a school board representative, take it to the rest of the school board too. It's not just one person's decision and one person's issue, but it's good for the whole group to know. I also think it's important for the school administrators to keep that open communication with the school board too. Like, if I'm on the school board, I don't want the first time I hear about something to be from the parent. So making sure that the school board that there's full transparency between the buildings to the school board as well too, so that we can be a little bit more, have some information already when we hear about it and not have it first time be from the parent. Yeah, and I think it's important for it to feel like an inviting space for parents of the community to come into the school board or be willing to just approach any of the school board members. When you run, you're saying that you're willing to stick up for the people in the community or hear them out anyways. And so being an inviting person for them to talk to and being willing to share that with the administrators and the rest of the school board.
Tim?
Well, I think I'm fairly fortunate in my everyday job in our machine shop. That's all I do a lot of days is communicate. I communicate with our guys on the floor in the shop. I communicate with folks on the phone. I communicate with other stores of ours. I communicate with the general public all over the country sometimes because there's just not that many people left that do what we do. So I would like to think that I am very good at communication. I would like to think that I'm, very inviting, that I try to, once again, remain calm. Make sure that I am listening. I'm not listening to hear, I'm listening to understand. And I think that, if you really take the time to listen to understand, it does not take very long to figure out how somebody wants to be listened to, how they're concerned, how they want their concern to be addressed. you know, as far as two-way communication between the community and the district, you know, I would say that, for example, you know, after city council meetings, I know Marlis Barker puts out her summary of, you know, what was voted on, what passed, what didn't. You know, could that be done on the school district level? You know, that's something I don't know. That's something that would take some conversations between the board and you know, our administration. But, you know, all in all, I would like to think that, you know, communication being the strong point of my everyday, I would like to think that I could, you know, I could continue and hopefully build on the communication within our district from that to our community.
Thank you. And next question, you all answered that one, right? Good, we will start in the middle with you, Emily. This question is about coursework. What courses are available in the middle school and high school outside of the traditional academic areas like science and math and social science? So, for instance, courses in music, shop, agriculture, etc. Do we have enough of these? Too many? Not enough? What is your thought about the courses beyond the traditional academic areas, starting with Emily?
Thinking about my two kids who are different, I feel like there's enough. They are different personalities, different interests, and they have both found things that they can be involved in. I know at the middle school, this is more club than academic, but they're encouraged to come to administration if they have an idea for something that they want to do, which I love that we empower them to come with an idea and see if they can help get it off the ground. I have one who's involved in drama and FFA and choir and student council and takes advanced classes. And then I have another one who just only cares about sports and is very good at math and science. And I feel like there's enough. I know my freshman is already like, there's way more classes than I want to take or than I have time to take. So I feel like there's enough, but also thinking about students needing to be ready for the real world. I guess that's where I would want to add some things. I know we have IJAG and some internship programs and stuff, but if I was going to add something, it would probably be more career readiness type of courses.
Tim?
Well, I'm going to start by saying that I, for one, think that our ag program is second to none. I really think that Mr. Cooper does an excellent job. I think that there are probably not very many ag teachers in this state that work as hard as he does, and I think that the diversity that he offers within that ag program, you know, I don't think anything left to be desired there. You know, I know we have, you know, certain things that we do partner with DMAC on. I think that's very important. You know, I think, and I believe last night at the board meeting, I think there was something that had come up about an expansion with that DMAC program. You know, and honestly, I mean, the trades are huge. The trades are really huge. You know, but on that note, we can't necessarily, you know, forget the academics. We have to have the academics along with, you know, trying to get maybe some of these kids interested in the trades. You know, I don't know if that looks like a partnership with a business owner, you know, but I think that's possible. And I think, you know, if you know, if there is somewhere to add something, I think it is probably trade driven. And I think there is some kind of apprenticeship or something that very well could be looked at some point there.
Katie?
I think for a district our size with our enrollment numbers, I think we offer a huge diversity of courses, and that has been really good. I think we've got a really wide breadth that, as Emily mentioned, is appealing to all different types of students, whether their interest is art, if it's shop, if they're in AgMech with Coop. It's been really good. This question is kind of timely though. So I have a sophomore, my oldest is a sophomore at the high school, and she desperately wanted an alternate language. She was not interested in taking Spanish. We as a family do learning in another language, and she wanted that to be her language. It's French, by the way. And we worked with administration. Obviously, Nevada doesn't offer a French program. We don't have a French teacher, which is totally understandable. And we worked with administration to see what we could do to get her into DMAC. Went through a lot of hoops, and ultimately she's in Spanish at the high school because we couldn't make it work, which was really unfortunate that we couldn't come up with a solution for that. And so I think that there are courses that maybe we should explore. If there are numbers of students that are interested in something else, and we have kind of that, you know, core mass of students where it makes sense to add a course, I think we should explore that. We don't, just because we have a lot of classes that meet a lot of needs doesn't mean that we have everything. And that changes over the years. And so maybe there are some courses that we should reevaluate that would serve our students in other ways. And that certainly doesn't have to be a foreign language, as in my example. But if that is a more applicable, you know, math class for someone who is interested in working with their hands and going into, you know, architecture, they're going to make plans for buildings, whatever that might be, we should explore that because students' interests change over time.
For our next question, we'll start with you, Tim. To your understanding, what is the time commitment for school board members? And explain for the audience, please, how you will be able to give that time, how you juggle that with other commitments.
Well, you know, having 3 active boys that are all involved in sports and among other things, you know, it's not like I have anything better to do, right? You know, and for those who don't know, I'm a single parent. You know, so there's a lot of things going on, and I understand that. But, you know, at the same time, I would like to think I'm very good at multitasking. You know, I have attended most of the board meetings since I announced that I was going to run. I know there have been a few that I have missed for, you know, either it was a closed session, which, you know, really wouldn't involve me being the public there anyways, or somebody had a practice that I couldn't get covered. But I mean, I've got a really good network of folks, you know, be it some of my kids' friends, they have 2 grandmothers that can help out. You know, I realize that it goes well beyond board meetings. I know that last night it was brought up that, you know, there is a convention for the school board in Des Moines. I know that there are, you know, classes, there are, you know, other trips that probably need to be gone on. You know, and I always do my best to, I mean, my kids obviously take my priority over anything, but, you know, with the network that I have, I feel that I can be very efficient and I can attend the maximum that need be and not miss hardly any meetings at all, and make sure that I am putting the time in to be a board member that I have asked you guys to elect me to be.
Katie?
Well, I am quite fortunate in my career that I'm a little bit flexible in my time. Again, I'm a professor at Iowa State. I'm in the diagnostic lab, and while I have quite a bit of work that has to be accomplished on any given day, it can be completed whatever those hours might be. And so that gives me a little bit of flexibility in my day and how I lay out my day and where I am. And so for school board meetings, certainly not an issue. I am actually rotating off of 2 professional committees, and so I'm going to be freeing up a little bit of my kind of personal development time or professional development time, and so I would be looking to fill that with the school board if I should be elected. And so again, just really fortunate that I can be flexible with my day and make the time commitment that's necessary to serve the school board and serve it well.
Emily?
I actually asked this question before I decided to run, and so in addition to the 2 meetings, school board meetings a month, they're also school board members are asked to be on a few other school committees, 2 of which I'm already on, and so those aren't an extra commitment for me. I also have a very flexible job. I have unlimited PTO. I can come and go as I need to. So when I was on the cell phone policy committee here recently, we took a whole day and went and visited some other school districts and things. And that was super easy for me to do. I would look at this as something just as important as my job. I went down the rabbit hole on the Iowa School Board Association website the other day, like Tim mentioned. I'm like, there's all these classes you can take, and I'm like, a lifelong learner. I want to take all of them. So for me, this would be a pretty important thing in my life and something I would take a deep dive into.
Thank you. For our next question, we will begin with you, Katie. Over the last year and a half, there's been a lot of discussion about diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in public schools as well as universities. To get to one thing, what do you think you would propose to advance equity in student learning in the Nevada School District?
So DEI has been just such a hot topic over the last couple of years. And so specifically, we're talking about equity for students. And so I think what we need to first understand is what does equity mean to us as a district? I think that the best lens to come at it from, particularly when we think about it at a university level, is making sure that every student can see over the fence, right? Whether they are short and you're giving them one box so that they can see over the fence, if they just need a chair and they can see over that fence just fine, or if they need nothing. Each student is going to be different in what brings them up to that kind of learning fence line, if we go with that analogy. And so we need to continue to identify the students that need help and offer them the resources that they need, understanding that might be nothing for some students because they already have everything that they need, and that might be a whole lot for some students who have learning disabilities, who have physical needs that need to be met just so that they can be in the classroom and be present and be learning. And so it's important as a school district to continue to serve all of our students regardless of their needs and making sure that they get what they need to learn.
Emily?
Yeah, each student is their own individual and have their own individual needs. And having worked in this school, and again, this was like 6 years ago, so I'm sure I know it has changed even in the last 6 years, but I was shocked at how many different needs that there are, and for so many different reasons. And so when I talk about being able to provide the resources for the students, I do think it's important that we can meet each student where they are and meet their needs and get them what they need. And school should be a place where they can just come and be educated. And I think the school should be able to provide whatever that looks like for each student, and make them feel seen and heard, and show that we care about each one of them and that they're all important. And we want them all to be able to graduate and get to the end goal, the same as the person next to them.
Tim?
So the one thing that I can connect to this on, my oldest son has been diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, and actually starting this year has started on an IEP. And he's one that, he has a little bit of trouble with reading and such as that. But this IEP was huge for him. This IEP just turned everything around. And I think that, and I was actually kind of surprised to learn how many students were already on, either an IEP plan or something of the like. So one thing on equity, I think it is making sure that these IEPs are available and doing what we can, within what we have in our control to make sure that those are available and that those can be made use of, so that more of these students can be up to pace where they need to be.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll start with you, Emily. We've talked a lot about priorities of balancing needs and resources, but how will you specifically prioritize spending in light of the anticipated budget challenges? So how will you prioritize spending and meet the needs based on the fact that there's budget challenges facing this school and all schools?
I think you have to look at what's the most important thing to the school. Our students and our staff are very important, so making sure that all of their needs are covered first. I love that we have beautiful facilities and things, but some of those, if we don't have the money for them and can't get creative on ways to find the money for them, I think that those things would come last. But for me, it's making sure that the students and the staff have what they need, because they're our most important asset.
Tim?
Tim?
Well, I think we've got a good idea of what you want to accomplish. I think you've got a lot of
Well, again, here, I think, making sure that, and I would echo most of that, but, I still go back to, retaining our teachers, retaining our staff, and teachers and paraeducators, it all works together as one. So, I mean, again, it's kind of difficult to prioritize, where the money goes, and that's once again why hopefully this PEPAL gets approved on the ballot. But I think that taking care of our people to make sure that we retain our good people is probably one of the top priorities. But making sure that our students have what they need on a daily basis, and that's maybe something where a negative lunch account balance comes in to help with some of that. Or a negative lunch account for that comes in. And at the end of the day, I think as long as we can maintain that balance, I think that, when we retain our teachers, we retain our students, and I think that's where we need to be.
Katie?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about priorities, and it's hard, right, to make those priority lists, but we've got to understand what is our mission here as a school board and a district, and it's to educate our students. And so that really needs to be the number one priority, is making sure that the students are getting an education. And so do the teachers have the resources they need? Do the students have the resources they need? Because without those two things, there's not a whole lot of learning happening. And then following that with facility improvements. Then following that up with facility improvements and what that looks like as a school district, and making that happen as well. And so while priorities are hard, sometimes you've got to make hard decisions.
Thank you. We've had a lot of good questions, but there's time yet. If any of you sitting in the audience want to step up to the microphone and ask a question that hasn't been asked or do a follow-up, is there any specific question among the audience? Looks like we have a question.
It's just more.
And this time we start with Tim.
Yeah, so it's more of a comment, but also a question. Following up on what Tim said about communicating with the community. So I just looked up the school board minutes here, and the last minutes of this year are dated July 14th. There aren't any since then. So, I'm a dinosaur. I still like to read newspapers, but since we stopped taking the Nevada Journal because it wasn't worth taking anymore, and since my kids have left the school district because they graduated, I don't know anything what's going on with the school district right now. And so I'd like to follow up on what you said. What could we do to put out regular information about what's going on at the school board that we used to read about in the newspaper? What are some ideas there that keep us informed? Because I want to be supportive, but I also don't want to watch the whole YouTube video of the school board meeting.
Well, it's funny that you would mention that, because I actually I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, I looked through obviously I've looked through the school website fairly extensively, trying to learn what I can here ahead of the game and whatnot, and I did click on the minutes, and I noticed that too, and I kind of thought, well, that's kind of strange, because we just had a meeting last night, and that was October 20th. So, and that would, as a board member, that is something where, you would have to ask your district leadership, why that is, why that's not getting put out there. And I think, like I mentioned, could something like what the city does as far as, just a brief overview of what happened at the school board meeting, could that be put out there? I think it's worth a discussion. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the same, and I understand that everyone's time is important, but, I think there is definitely, there's got to be some opportunity there, and definitely needs to be done better than that, I would say, for having, July 7th be the last minutes of a meeting, so.
Katie?
Yeah, I will also echo the fact that I went looking for minutes recently and couldn't find any, and that was frustrating, because how do you find out that information? So again, for me, that transparency with the district is really important, and how can we do that? Our district does a great job of having a social media presence, and they put a lot of stuff out there. Could that also include information about what's going on at the board meetings? I think it absolutely could. Does that mean that we could get something into our monthly mailer that comes out? We all get it in town. It includes lots of good information, and there's usually something in there about the school. And so could we be more transparent about what's happening at the district level or things that we're talking about? Could you get it out via email to parents? We could absolutely do that. They know where to find us when we have something going on with our students, so we could share it that way. That certainly wouldn't get it to all of the community members, but it's another way. And so those are kind of just 3 off the top of my head where we could be getting information out to the community about what's going on at the district level. And then again, making sure that it's all up to date on the website so that if somebody does go looking for it, it's there for them to find.
Yeah, I think it's telling when the school board candidates have all been looking for the minutes and can't find them. So definitely some work to be done there. As already mentioned, I know Tori said it earlier too, the social media stuff is amazing that school boards, or that the school puts out. So there's just a little piece missing there.
As a follow-up to that, and this will start over there with Katie and work this way, do you see that it's the role of school board members to hold the leadership accountable so that these things get either fixed or put into place as you've discussed them tonight?
Yeah, I think the relationship between the school board and the superintendent and the administration, that's all a balancing act. Someone recently told me, a lot happens when you just sit down to have a conversation between all of the members that are interested. And so I think it is the responsibility of the school board to voice the concerns of the community. That's why we're being elected. And if the administration or the superintendent or the board, if anyone is doing a subpar job or the community has concerns, we should be, as a board, advocating for those concerns. And that is no different with getting information out. It's something that we've all experienced as we go looking for it. And so that tells me that there are probably a lot of people in the community that are looking for the information and can't find it. And so we should, as a board, be advocating that the information be out there and that it be out there in a timely manner so that it can be consumed and ingested by the community. And if they have thoughts and concerns about it, they can get back to us.
Emily, and it's about board members holding leadership accountable.
Yeah, I think we currently have some pretty great leaders on our administrative team, but yes, if there's things that you're routinely hearing as a school board member from the community, then they definitely need to be addressed. I don't necessarily wouldn't want to be like micromanager or anything like that. It's good to allow them the freedom to do what they want to do, but yes, once you've been hearing it from the community, I think that's where the school board can step in and just ask the questions. Maybe it's happening and we just don't know about it or can't find it or whatever, but asking the questions and then also getting back to people on it too.
Tim?
Well, I would echo everything that Emily and Katie both said. I think the superintendent plays a part in that, but ultimately, I think it is up to the board to hold our leadership accountable. I know like I said, I think our leadership is great. There's always room for improvement, but that's where we kind of have to have that good relationship with our superintendent and with our leadership so that we can, when we ask the tough questions or ask the right questions, we can make sure that we're getting answers and we can make sure that we are all collaborating to get the problem fixed at the end of the day.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. You have been given a lot of questions. We have one more. Good. That's good.
My question is, what do you guys see as a school board's role in evaluating curriculum that's going on? Specifically, my son is a senior. He is taking an Edmonton class, which is the online platform, Social Issues. Ironically, the class has not been updated in over 20 years. So Social Issues he's being asked to review and write about happened before he was born. I've reached out to the principal and administration at the high school and was told that, yeah, they don't have control over the content of Edmentum. But I just wonder what you guys think about that, or what you guys see as the role of the school board in evaluating those platforms.
We'll start with Emily, and we're
I guess now that you say that, I was like, oh, my freshman said that too about one of her Edmentum classes. Like, this feels old and not a good use of her time. So to have a student say that instead of, heck yeah, I get to sit here and listen to something boring, probably it does need to be looked at. And again, that would be where I would hope, as a parent, if you've already taken it to the administrator, that if the school board needs to be the next step and look into it, I feel like the school board can look into that. Again, I would want it to start with the teachers, the teacher level, and then administration level, and then if it needs to go up one more, then yes, I think it would be appropriate for the board to look into it.
Tim?
Yeah, I agree with going up the chain. And if you're, if you, there again, if anyone in the community or any of these parents feel like they're not getting the right answers, I think that's where, if they come to us, I think that's where, we need to be asking the questions. 20 years old, wow. That just, looking at some of the cutting edge things that I see in a lot of our other, our other areas of our school district, that just blows my mind. But, and again, like Emily said, I think that is something that a board could look into, but I think, that's where, we probably need to rely on our superintendent, we need to rely on our district leadership to get us that information to, hopefully get that problem solved.
Katie?
Yeah, I will echo a little bit of what has been said, but it is really important for parents who have concerns, who have taken them to administration and either feel like they haven't been heard or feel like they need to go higher, to feel like they can come to the school board and voice those concerns. That should be shared, and we should all feel like we have a seat at the table in our children's education. And we as a board, if we were elected, if you're talking about the school board, should feel like they have the ability to question that. And why hasn't that been updated? And why isn't anyone looking at it? And how are we evaluating our courses on Edmentum? How are we evaluating our courses at any of the schools? And it would be good for everyone to understand that and how it's happening, if it's happening, and when it's happening. And so those are all things that I feel like should be conversations that we're having, regardless of what the problem itself is. If the parent feels like it's an issue, then they should bring it up the chain, and it should be discussed because it's an issue.
Okay, we have now come to the part of our program where we'll ask our candidates for closing remarks. Candidates, if you would like to respond to, with further information about anything that you were previously asked, you can do that. Or if you want to elaborate on something, or just share whatever it is you'd like. You have 2 minutes to tell us what's important to you as a potential school board member. We'll start with you, Tim.
Okay, I'll go first. I will say that, this is a little out of my comfort zone, and I'm hoping that I've done a reasonable job of answering your guys' questions, and, hopefully this treats me well. I guess there's nothing I really want to revisit. I guess I just feel like I have probably, maybe 2 areas where, maybe I'm a little more versed. I mean, I have a very strong agricultural background. I forgot to mention when I introduced myself that we do own a family farm in Milford Township. That family farm, I'm training my 3 boys to someday take the reins of that family farm, and I beat into their head, we do not sell farm ground, we pass that down. This year, that family farm crossed 90 years in Hadley ownership. The boys, if they, when the boys take the reins on it, they will be the 5th generation of Hadleys on that farm. There have been Hadleys in Story County since shortly after the turn of the century. You couple that with me being in the trades, me being in, some of these things, college just wasn't for me. I didn't go to college. I didn't get a college degree. I started out at my job as a teardown guy, getting dirty, greasy every day, which whether you can see good or not, sometimes I still do. But I've worked my way from that up to the supervisor of the shop. So, I feel like I have a lot of real world experience, and I think that, like I said, 3 kids in this district, we're invested, we've been here for a while, we're not going anywhere, and I'd like to make sure that that's the case. And, I think I can be fully invested and be your next school board member and do a good job of it.
Thank you. Katie?
Yeah. I just want to thank everybody for attending tonight and taking the time out of your evening on a weeknight to listen to us talk and answer your questions. Nevada is a really strong community, and I think that the school board and the district reflect that. And so I am really running with the goal to just strengthen those connections, increase the visibility and the transparency of what's happening in the district to all of those in the community, whether you're just a community member or you're a parent of students in the district. With my experience as a veterinarian, over a decade in higher education at Iowa State, a parent to 3 children in the district, I come with a lot of perspective, and I understand the implications that a good education from an early age has on the life of a student once they leave the walls here in the Nevada Community School District, whether they're bound for college, whether they are bound for a trade, a job, or another role in our community. The education that we give them is going to serve them for the rest of their life, and it should be a good one. And so if you want to talk later with me, I am happy to listen, and I would welcome your thoughts and perspectives. Thanks.
Thank you. Emily?
Yes, thank you all for being here. I saw lots of people yawning, and hopefully we didn't bore you too much. So I love Nevada. It's no secret. I'm very big town supporter. All things Nevada. As much as I love it, I never, ever, ever thought I'd see myself on a ballot in an elected position. But I also never thought I would be a lunch lady for 2 years. I never thought I would run an elementary school library or get my substitute license. So I've done those things, and those are all what light my fire. And I have a lot of passion in learning more about how a school operates and all the things that come with that. Kids are our future. I'd like to be around to help see Nevada continue to be a really strong school district, and love to see it continue to have high marks among the state. And yeah, go Cubs.
Thank you. Thank you all for a very informative evening. Before we conclude, I want to remind everyone to vote on or before Tuesday, November 4th. If you are not already registered, or if there is a member of your family who's eligible to vote and not registered, they can register on Election Day at the correct polling place for your address, and you must have proper ID. If you have requested an absentee ballot, you have until Tuesday, November 4th at 5 p.m. to have your ballot inside the auditor's office over here on 6th Street. So keep in mind that any ballot delivered after 5 p.m. on November 4th will not be counted. Thank you to our candidates for taking the time to share your views. Thank you for your commitment to serve and the energy you're bringing to this. Thank you to the audience and all of you who are engaged in this process. Thank you for coming, and this concludes our candidate forum.